Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. I'm sad. Today's the last day of this month's XD Daily Creative Challenge, day number 9. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe. And if you are joining us live on Behance, let me know. We have Bander and Bruce and Armado and Anzi and Bander again, and Ann, and all these amazing people. Let me know where you're tuning in from. We are streaming live from San Francisco this week. It rained a little bit. I'm not very happy about that. I gotta drive back to Los Angeles later today, possibly in the rain. Not looking forward to that, but I am looking forward to spending some time with all of you, and Robin and Antonio and all these amazing people who are just joining us. Sam and Monica, Giselle, a lot of familiar names, and Jaron. I believe I have some of your work to take a look at today. So like what, on the last day of the Daily Creative Challenge, it's always a sad time, but what we'd like to do is, in addition to kind of showing and kicking off the last challenge, which I'll go over in a second, we also like to look back at some of the cooler entries that have come over the last week or so. So at the end of the show, probably in about 20 minutes or so, we're gonna take a look at, I don't know, I have a bunch of tabs open on my browser. Just some stuff that really stood out to me. And man, I want to look over everything, but there were literally hundreds and hundreds of entries that flowed in over the last 2 weeks. And so many of them were so good, I just couldn't narrow it down. So, I recruited some of the mentors that have been helping us, and a big thank you to Chris Cannon, Peter Del Tondo, Zach, and Marissa, and everyone else who's been joining us in Slack, helping us out over the last 2 weeks. It's been fun, and Slack is growing like crazy. There's almost 13,000 people, but let me hop over to my screen to kind of show off what the deal is. So here we go, behance.net/Daily Creative Challenge. You can hit that register button at the top, but today's the last day, so. But we will be having more Daily Creative Challenges very soon, and we're gonna mix things up a little bit. We have some exciting things in store for 2019, so this is not the end. It's the end for today, but it's not the end. And Adobe Live is here, the amazing Gus Spot in the house. Welcome. And a big thank you to all of our mods as well for helping us out, keeping things clean, so I don't have to. So on the Daily Creative Challenge page, we have a few things that you're gonna notice. Number 1, you're gonna receive a challenge each day. Again, today is day number 9, the final day. And I am here 8:30 a.m. every single day, kicking things off and showing you a few tips and tricks in Adobe XD to get you started. And you're going to use Adobe XD to design and prototype whatever that theme is every single day. Oh, Gus Spot Adobe Live just confirmed the details. The next Daily Challenge starts on February 18th. There we go. And we are gonna mix it up for that. That's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a little bit different than this one, but we'll have more details in the coming weeks. But it's gonna be, I think it'll be fun. And then you have until February 1st, which is, can you believe today's February? It's February. Today's February 1st, so you have until today to complete and upload all of your entries. However, it's not a competition, it's really for you to build your skills as a designer, learn new things in XD. A lot of you have never used XD before, so it's a perfect opportunity to jump into something new. So if you couldn't, boop, yes, Orla. I will add boops today. Boop is like the thing now. Yeah, if you can't get your stuff in by February 1st, don't worry about it. Upload it next week or next month or whatever it is. These challenges will always be there. And speaking of that, the videos will be on YouTube for a while, probably forever. But we're also looking at ways into how do we archive some of these challenges, like the actual templates in the future. So we're working on that behind the scenes so that if you want to go back and do past challenges, that stuff will be there. So you can just kind of do that. So don't worry about the February 1st deadline. Boop, boop, boop. Yes, keep on booping, people. So grab XD for free. Can't beat that. And join our Slack community. And here's our Slack community right here. And we have 12,641 people. That's a lot of people in here. And so many of you, 99.999% of you are such nice people. I think last night was the only night that there were some strange things going on, but our moderators took care of it very quickly while I was sleeping. But yeah, there's introduction section. There's chat where People post memes from time to time. And, you know, let us know where you're from, what you do in Slack, and it's a good time. And then finally down here, we have all of our challenges, and today's challenge is to create a swipe to edit email client experience using Adobe XD, auto animate, that sort of fun stuff. XD drinking game, do a shot every time Howard says repeat grid. I don't recommend that because you might have a bad time. Because I love repeat grids. It's one of the earliest features in Adobe XD, and I use it as much as I can. I'm gonna use it a lot in today's stream. So please don't take a shot every time I say repeat grid. Maybe boop. No, don't do that either. No shots today. So grab the template, download it, provided by Marissa Blair. If you're watching, Marissa, thank you. And yeah, let's do this. We're gonna review some stuff later, but let's hop over to XD. I'm sad, it's the last day. I like doing these things, but I also need a break. So here's the template you're gonna be using, and going through some of this stuff. Over here to the left, we have our challenge, and today it's to design and prototype a swipe to edit experience for an email client. And all of you have probably used email clients. You all have phones, right? Maybe some of you get that meme from BlizzCon, but maybe some of you don't. You know, you swipe over to the left and either some additional little buttons appear, or you just swipe all the way to the left and you can delete it completely. So we're gonna kind of do something like that in today's challenge. We're gonna be using repeat grids, auto animate, drag, and we're gonna share for review on Behance. And if you missed the news, as of Monday, you can now upload prototypes to Behance, embed them like you have been able to do, but now auto animate is enabled. Except drag. Drag does not render completely just yet, but it's being worked on. But if you have tap and things like that, auto animate works beautifully. Down here in the template, we have a bunch of type. You can just add those directly to your assets panel and colors as well. So if I do go over to my assets panel, this little guy down here at the bottom, boop, press on that. And here's our assets. We have our colors, character styles, and symbols. And the team is working hard to expand what assets are. You might have seen Andrew Shorten's blog post in December, for the December update. He talked a lot about what the future of cloud documents is. And that really, you know, design systems comes into play with that. So we might see some updates to some of that stuff. But what's cool about the assets panel in its current state is, if I like one of these color schemes, let's say this color scheme here, I can just grab these colors, press the plus button beside colors in my assets panel. It's gonna automatically add those in there. And then if I wanna make edits to those colors later on, even if they're being used across the entire document, I can easily do that. It's nice global edits. The same thing works with character styles, symbols, they have symbol swapping and that sort of thing, really cool stuff. There's some UI elements, title bars, we have some delete buttons and archive buttons, plus check marks, X's, all this fun stuff. Hey Jan, welcome. I love seeing familiar faces. Boop drinking game. No more boop drinking games. You're gonna get drunk by the end of the stream. We have a bunch of icons here, also provided by Marissa Blair. She's awesome. If you don't follow Marissa on Twitter, I think it's exopixel, something like that. Look her up, give her a follow. She posts some great design stuff. She's a fantastic designer. And then if you want to really get started, we have some UI elements over here and then padding. But we're gonna kind of start from scratch on this lovely empty artboard over here. Looks so sad, kind of like today. So let's do this. We're going to be using repeat grids to create the elements. Actually, I'm not gonna start on an empty artboard. I'm gonna grab some of the elements. I'm gonna grab this title bar. Let's grab the search one. And do we wanna grab this one? Nah, well, maybe we'll grab that later. We'll see. We'll pop this over here, copy, paste, easy stuff. Pop it up here. And I could just dive into this title, name this messages, I think. Messages. Messages. It's early, I can't spell, people. Give me a break. All right, so we have that. We also have some inspiration over here. We're kind of gonna do, you know, some of this stuff. You notice, I believe this is Outlook, possibly, maybe. It's one of these applications, and you can slide over, and then this one is iOS Mail, and you have a few more buttons over here. So we're gonna do something like that. No more drinking games. I'm not responsible for your shenanigans. So up here, what we're going to do, we're gonna create the first card. And we're gonna grab the rectangle tool from the left and simply drag one out. I'm not too concerned where it is in the artboard right now. We will move that around. And we probably don't need a border. Maybe a little bit of a border, tiny bit of a border, but very subtle, just like that. And I'm gonna extend this because I don't want to see the border here. What I can do is I can either set this stroke to the outside so that kind of hides it over here, or just like, you know, extend this, whoops, extend this off the artboard just a tiny little bit so we can't see that outline. There we go. And now we're gonna have a little bit of a profile picture because maybe these are personalized emails. We wanna actually add some people to them. So I'm gonna grab my circle, my little ellipse, hold down my shift key, drag this out. And I'm gonna change the color just so I can see it against that white background. Don't need a stroke for this one. And I'll leave it right about there. Great. And what else do we need? Well, we also need, you know, a text, like title, something like this, who it's from, maybe the date, a little arrow possibly, and then some information about that email, the actual subject. And if you do use email applications, let me know in the chat what your favorite one is. I've been using Outlook a lot on iOS. It's surprisingly really good. So I'm gonna grab my text tool, and this will be the name of the person, name of sender. I'll have this at the top. I'm going to use the San Francisco font from Apple, which looks really nice on iOS. And one of the cool things I love about, you know, point text on Adobe XD is that little tiny bubble or handle right below. And what you can do, you can simply just, let me zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing. Just drag it up, drag it down, and it makes it bigger, makes it smaller. And just says, Apple Mail is the best. It's pretty good. It's not bad, but Outlook is surprisingly decent. And they just had new design that they just rolled out with some cool animations. It's fun stuff. And do we want to do bold? Maybe medium, so it's not too crazy. Maybe I'll space out the letters a touch so they're not too close together. All right, line that up there. It's a pretty good size, I think. All right. And then for the actual subject of the mail, we're going to use, instead of a point text, we're going to use an area text. So in that case, I'm going to line up, and you notice those smart guides are always there guiding me throughout my process, and I can just drag it around just like this, drag it into place. And for this one, I'm just gonna name it whatever. And I do have, I believe, under my plugins menu, I do not. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna accept this for now. I'll work on my type. Let's say this will be regular, probably. Yeah, regular is okay. Maybe even light. Maybe that's a bit too light, probably. Let's do regular. We have a Lorem Ipsum plugin within you know, our plugins. So if you go up to the top, go to plugins, discover plugins, and you type in Lorem Ipsum, maybe. I probably spelt Lorem, I spelt Lorem wrong. So I'm gonna install this plugin, and plugins are great. There's so many different things that plugins allow you to do in XD that natively you can't do at the moment. So it's really neat. So with that done, I'm gonna go to the plugins menu, Lorem Ipsum, and fill the placeholder text. And sure, I agree, whatever. And we'll do that. Looks great. End with punctuation mark. We'll do a period and insert text. And there we go. Now we have sort of a text box. And you can also use plain text documents to drag into repeat grids. And I'll show you that in a second. Not with the subject, but with the name. It's pretty cool. I'll move this, drag it into place. And that looks pretty good. And I can select both of these, drag them up, drag them down to make sure they're centered and lining up with the little circle on the left. Great. Hey, Dorina, welcome and good morning. Now, finally, we want a date on the side. Now, we want it to line up with the name of the sender, so I'm gonna simply grab that, hold down Alt-Option, and drag it over. So, David is asking, is there a plugin for more text formatting controls? And yes, there is. So, one of the bigger requests that the team gets is being able to control your text more, like many other editors, you know, being able to very quickly create capitalization, lowercase letters, title case, that sort of thing. The XD team is working on that as I speak. But in the meantime, there is a plugin that can do just that for you. I believe it's called Change Case. Cool, and there's probably other ones, but there's lots of cool plugins. So this one will be, let's say, Friday. And we don't want this to be, you know, so prevalent, so I'm gonna, let's say, light. And I'm also going to decrease the opacity so it's just There we go, just like that. Great. So our first card is more or less complete. This is kind of how things are going to look for. And now I'm sad too. It's the last day. Yeah. So this is the first card. So what we want to do now, we want to turn this into a repeat grid, and do not take a shot, please. So I'm going to select all of these layers. I can either do that just by dragging across my artboard, or I can select all the layers in my layers panel. I can either put these in a group if I want to keep things really organized, or I can just leave it as is, and then hit the repeat grid button over to the right. And if you're not familiar with repeat grids, this will add 2 new handles, one to the right and one at the bottom, and allow us to pull them out. And so we can make additional entries horizontally if we want. Obviously you don't want that in this example, but we can also pull them downwards. Let me zoom out so you can see, or there we go. So I'm just gonna simply pull these down the artboard so we have a bunch of different entries extending down. And we also can control our padding. So if you hover your mouse in between any of the, you people are terrible. No more drinking. If you hover your mouse in between the different entries, you're able to just drag on this pink area up or down to increase the spacing or decrease it. And I'm actually gonna make it nice and snug with no padding so that they're all kind of on top of each other. And I can easily just maybe -1 so that the border is kind of, you know, there. And I might want a few more, so I'm gonna extend that downwards just like that. Great. Now let me move this up so that lines up and fits snugly with our title bar at the top. Beautiful. That looks great. But it's also missing content. So what are we gonna do for that? How are we gonna add in some content? And we're gonna do that in a few different ways. Let me hop over to Finder. Whoop. And for the images of the little fancy people that are gonna go right over here, we're just gonna grab some stock photos. Some of these are from Adobe Stock, some of them are from Unsplash, a lot of different places you can grab images. So I'm gonna grab all the photos that contain people. That's a person, that's a person, that's probably a person. That's probably good. And if I don't have enough images to fill all the slots in the repeat grid, it'll just repeat until everything's filled, which is great. So I'm gonna grab any of the images and I'm going to simply drag them into any of the circles. And Jan is saying, don't be sad it's over, be happy because it happened. It's so very true. And the good news is there'll be more creative challenges, and there's always a Slack channel. There's always Twitter. We're everywhere. We're always live streaming. That's what we do. It's great. Jasmine is saying it would be nice if for XD to have collaborative editing. Actually, I'm not giving anything away, but Andrew's blog post, again, which was released in December, specifically mentioned no boop drinking. He didn't mention that, but he specifically mentioned that collaborative editing is in the works. So that's kind of what Cloud Documents, which we released in December, is leading up to, is live collaboration. So you and your team can possibly edit a document at the exact same time and just get things done much faster. It's gonna lead to more in-depth design systems, versioning, which is great. So you don't have to save 17 files for a single document. You know, we've all done it. Email mobile app _ final, _ actually final this time, right? So a lot of that stuff is gonna come because Cloud Documents are now in Adobe XD, and it has autosave. So, you know, version control is in the works, Natasha. So lots of cool things coming up in 2019 and beyond, so stick around. So look, all these fancy people are now in our email app, and you know, because I didn't have enough of those fancy people, they just repeated the repeat grid, which is great. And I can also do the same thing for names. So here's a very simple plain text document containing a bunch of names. I used this one in the Apple Watch app, and I can just drag this document into Adobe XD, pop it over top of the name of sender layer, and it's gonna automatically add those names in. And I can very easily go in, let's say, you know, this is probably not Ahmed. I'll name this Jasmine. That's probably not Mark. This is, let's say, Samantha. Oh, this is probably not, maybe this is Mark. And I can easily make overrides on these text layers as I need to, which is nice. So Now, at this point, we're pretty happy with the way things are looking in terms of the actual email content, but there's a lot more that we have to do. So you notice that, there's these little buttons underneath, and on this one here, there's just a single one where you slide over. We'll probably just do a single one for this tutorial and this stream, but I encourage all of you to go crazy, have multiple buttons and have them come out at different speeds. Is there an update to the plugin for XD, for example, UI Faces? So I did speak to the developer of UI Faces, and he mentioned that he was working on an update that works with repeat grids. I don't believe that's available yet, but I would assume that's in the works. And the developers are always updating these plugins, which is nice. So with that done, what we're going to do is we're going to design that archive button underneath. So I'm going to grab a rectangle and draw one out across one of these entries, just like that. We'll go with a nice green color. That's a pretty good green. What do you think of that green? Looks good. Is there plugin development at Adobe? So there are some Adobe employees who do develop plugins, but we do have a great API, and our plugins team has done an amazing job at providing this API to developers that really extends across many aspects of Adobe XD. And I believe there's also still a fund if you have like some really good ideas that you want to bring to XD as a plugin. There's a fund that we used to have. I think we still have it actually, that you can apply for, which is nice. So we're going to do that. We have that button. We're going to also have an icon for archiving. So let's go find our icons. Is this an archive button? Possibly, right? I think that's an archive button. So we'll grab that anyway. Looks like a great button. And we're gonna move it over here, paste it. Let's move it up here, enlarge it a little bit. We'll make it white. Is that too big? It'll do. It'll do, pig. There we go. And we'll write the word archive over top of it. Chris Cannon is in the house. How's it going? One of our amazing mentors, as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream. He's in Slack all the time, giving great feedback. But now, after this week, he's gonna go back to his regular life of doing whatever he does. If you missed the stream of the Adobe live stream of myself and Chris, it's a good time. We just go at each other the entire stream. It's fantastic. All right, so we have basically the archive area that we're going to use to slide over to the left. Natasha would love to see a stacks feature as implemented in Framer X and Sketch. Yeah, me too. But go to adobeXD.uservoice.com. There's a lot of interesting things that the team is thinking about for animation and organization and a lot of different aspects of XD. But a lot of what they tackle is directly, kind of run by the community. So if something is at the very top of the list in user voice, they're probably going to be tackling that first, or at least close to first. Like hover, for example, it's right at the very top of user voice right now. It's in the works. So good stuff. Definitely go upvote those features so that the team knows that you want it. So archive is going to be here, and we're going to make sure to group all this stuff. So I have these two selected. I'm going to hold down Shift, click on this background, Command or Control G, put it into a group. And we're gonna name this archive. Great. And we're also gonna move it over a little bit because basically when the slides happen, it's also gonna come at a different speed as the one in the background. And we wanna make sure that it's behind this layer. Boop. There we go. Great. So now we're ready to go. Now the thing we're gonna run into is that if we do go ahead and dive into this repeat grid, grab these elements of just this card and move them over, they're all gonna move over. So we don't want that. So what we're going to do, now that the entire repeat grid is set up, we can go ahead and break it. So I'm gonna right click, ungroup the grid, and now we have access to the individual groups and elements so we can move them individually. Now, the first artboard is complete. What we're going to do, no, Andy, do not drink every time Howard says it's in the works. Because again, you'd have a bad time because the team is working on a lot of stuff. So a lot is in the works. So don't do that. So we're gonna duplicate this artboard. I'm gonna select the artboard, Command and Control D to duplicate it over. And now we want to replicate what the next state will look like. And that's the cool thing about Auto Animate, is you just have to design the two states and Auto Animate will do the rest. So I'm gonna select this group, drag it over to this side, and you might notice that's gonna snap onto the pasteboard or the other artboard. And that's because all those email messages are not part of an overall group. So I'm gonna go back here, I caught myself. Let me collapse these groups so I can see what we're working with. And I'm going to select all of this stuff, put it into a master group, and call this emails. And now this will allow me to basically grab this group, drag it off the artboard, right? And it will stay within this artboard because it's part of a larger group that contains elements that are still on this specific artboard. And this one will go over this way. Let's say about here. Maybe about here, possibly. Or maybe we want to grab this group. Where was this group? Maybe pop it around here. And we'll make this a little bit longer. We're gonna experiment and see what this looks like, but we'll try it here. And then from this, when someone gets to this point and lets go, we want it to automatically finish the animation and then slide up, right? So one more artboard, Command and Control D to duplicate. This is going to go all the way over this way. These buttons will go a little bit over this way. We want different speeds, so we're gonna move them at different rates. Maybe about here. And then all of these groups down here, everything but that first group. I'm gonna deselect that first group, and then we're gonna just move these up. And it's gonna snap into place once we actually get to prototyping. There we go. So, and Ed is asking, can I do all the things in XD or do I have to pay for something? So there is a completely free version of Adobe XD. The main limitation is you have a little bit less cloud storage space, and you can only publish publicly one prototype at a time. And you can unpublish it if you need to and publish another one. But if you have the paid version, which is, if you just need XD, it's $10 a month or $9.99 a month. If you're a student, it's even cheaper. And that'll allow you to publish unlimited prototypes. So there's, if you don't need to publish prototypes and just have to create them, XD's free, it's great. So now that these artboards are ready to go, it's time to actually bring it to life. So let me go into prototype mode right here at the top. Boop. And what we're going to do, because we want a drag effect, we want to select this first group at the top because that's the one that we want to drag over to the left. And then we're going to drag this little blue handle right here to the second artboard. Instead of a tap transition, we're going to do drag. And auto animate is the default action for drag. We don't have to worry about too much easing because it's going to automatically transition to something else. And then for this one, let me actually just show you what this looks like for now. Press play, grab this and drag it over. And you're noticing that archive button is kind of moving at a different speed because it wasn't positioned the same as the card at the top. So they're kind of moving at different speeds, which is kind of nice. And then when it gets to this point, we automatically want it to transition to the next artboard and finish up the animation. So I'm gonna grab the entire artboard, the second artboard, and it's important to note that time transitions are only available on entire artboard. So if I had, let's say, just this element selected, drag it over to this artboard, time is not gonna be an option. There's no time, right? So let's undo that. And we'll select the entire artboard. And with that done, grab the handle to the right. Whoops. Grab the handle to the right, drag it over to the third artboard. Can we have a timeline for animations in Adobe XD? That might be something that the team is definitely thinking about. But go to adobeXD.uservoice.com, let them know that you want a timeline for more control over your animations. That way they know that there's enough people to get some resources. Chris says it's coming soon. I don't know anything about that. Chris seems to know more than I do. So I drag that over. I'm gonna select time for this trigger. We're gonna have a delay of 0 seconds. We want it to take place immediately. It's gonna be auto animate, and we'll have it snap into place. So when all those messages come up from the bottom, they kind of just like snap nicely at the top. And we'll have a very quick duration. I'll start with 0.4. It might be a little bit too slow. We might have to go to 0.2, but we'll see what that looks like. So let's see it in action. Press play. Let me move this stuff out of the way. We're gonna drag this over, and when I let go, it looks pretty good. It automatically moves away and slides up to the top. Let me show you that one more time. Slide it over, and you can do that really quickly. Just slide it and boom. There we go. Fancy. Howard is trying to get us to vote for what he wants in XD. I would love to see more control over timeline. I would love to see dark mode. I would love to see resizable symbols. What else would I love to see in XD? Better organization for artboards. There's a lot I would like to see, and there's a lot of that in the works. Can't say anything else. So there we go. There we have it. We're pretty much complete. And I would definitely challenge you as you are, creating your own challenge and entry for today's challenge, is to try 3 buttons. Try a few different things. Maybe it stops at this point and you can press on one of these buttons and do something else, right? Or maybe if you don't want the whole thing to be dragged, you could have stopped at this point and have this as a tap trigger instead of a timed animation. So one more time, just grab that, you can slide it back and forth, and when you get to this stopping point, it just goes away and snaps up to the top. So that is the final challenge of the 2 weeks. That's sad. Howard has talked too much. I have, haven't I? But I haven't said anything I shouldn't have said, right? I don't know, I might get spoken to later by the XD team. Don't say that. So that's it. But before we go, we have a little bit of time left because this is a little bit of a longer stream today. We're gonna take a look at some of the cooler entries that have come over the last 2 weeks. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, there were so many to look through, and I did look through them all. I've been looking through them all every single day over the last 2 weeks, and it was just so difficult to pick, I don't know, 10, I don't know how many this is, maybe 10 to showcase in this stream. And a big thank you again to Chris and Peter and Zach and Marissa for kind of, giving feedback on a lot of these entries and passing them my way. So let's begin. So this first one, and they're in no particular order, and Tasun, I believe he's in the chat. I think he was the one asking for a timeline. He's got good stuff. And just before I start, I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's names. I tend to do that. So this was for day 5, which is the Send Cash smartwatch app. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I love when designers kind of embed their mock-ups and their prototypes in actual devices, because it looks real. It kind of gives us an idea of what it's going to look like on an actual device. And he included a little bit of an animation with a little bit of a drag effect going on. Chris loves this one, yeah. And thank you, Marion, for joining us. And there's so many, familiar faces, and Anzi and Anel and Jude and so many awesome people, and David. Really cool stuff. Cool people. So that was cool. Great job, Tasun. If you are still here, I believe you were here a few minutes ago. So if you're here, great job. Next one is from Farnoosh, who is also one of our regulars. I don't believe I've seen her this morning, but she's on Slack once in a while. She's in the chat sometimes. And this was the pull to refresh theme. And who doesn't love a cute cat? So this one, when she gets to the top, she pulls down and the cat does a little animation with its eyes. And then a new cute cat picture kind of comes down from the top. What's not to love about that? Cute cat pictures. Moving animated eyes. Really cool stuff. Next one is from ZiniAB. Again, I apologize if I mispronounced your name. I believe I saw her either in Slack this morning or... There's Tasun. Welcome. Yeah, and she created this really cool... This was for the color by numbers. And she kind of took it in a different direction, and it's more trace and color. And I thought this was an amazing layout. And just the design in general was just really cool. It looks like something that I would probably give my daughter to play on an iPad, right? I thought this looked really, really nice. And there's a little bit of an animation we can watch. Cool loading screen. Very subtle animation when she tapped on that. And then she just goes through and drags, or not drags, but taps different points. and the duck is complete, or will be complete. Let's go forward in that. There we go. Congrats. Color your sketch. And now she switches over to color mode. A little bit of orange going on. Switch over to green. And you notice those very subtle changes when different colors are selected. Some of them fade out. The active color gets a little bit bigger. And all these things lead to a better user experience because that user now knows what color is selected and what color is not selected. So great job, ZiniAB, sorry. Next one is Winnie Wong, who did the also color by number challenge, and he went with a Van Gogh, I believe. Yeah, it's not how to pronounce it. It's like Van Gogh, something like that. Very fancy. And this one I thought was really cool because it's a very intricate, very, in-depth painting. And I think he did a pretty good job. What I would say if I was giving feedback is make the distinction between the active color and non-active colors a little bit greater so that the user would know exactly which color is selected. If you look closely, you can tell that this is the active color, but maybe fade these ones out a little bit more or make this one a little bit bigger or the outline a different color, something to that effect. But nice job. And there's also an interactive prototype we can launch, which again was one of the benefits of the latest update. So I can just click on this and there's hotspots. So if I don't know where to click on, I can just click anywhere and it tells me, oh, I got to close this. Oh, okay, I can open it again, drag around, and then I'm able to click a color. I can basically just do the entire painting myself, which is cool. Click on this color. There we go. And reset. Cool. I love that. Next is from Mallana, who took part in the Smart Home App Challenge. And I thought this layout at the top was really cool. I've been on a kick of these like gradiented circles and shapes in the background. You may have seen that on my latest Behance project. Chris says, what a way to clear your throat. I think that was in reference to the Van Gogh name. But she laid out her screens really nicely. And down here, she has a video of all that in action. I love how the lamp at the bottom gets dimmer or brighter as she slides that slider to the left and the right. And there's a chart. And then some of this, kind of ties back to, so yesterday we did, the challenge was to create an animated chart in Adobe XD. So she can now go back and modify this app with an animated chart. So there's a lot of really cool tie-ins with some of these challenges. Some of them we do deliberately, some of them just, happen to be like that. So great job. This is from Alenia, who, this was the Apple Watch app, and there is voice in this one. She did record her voice, which I thought was really cool. Now, by default, because some people were asking, when you publish a project to Behance, we do not include your voice. And there's a few reasons behind that, but one of the reasons is security concerns, that uploading your voice, there are things there that, security things. So, but if you record it yourself using a third-party application and then you upload that, that's, you're more than welcome to do that. So let's see.
Hey Siri.
What can I help you with?
I want to make a payment for my gym ride.
Which card would you like to use?
Card ends 9010.
Hopefully you can all hear this.
Please enter your passcode. Approve the command by tapping the button. Payment successfully received.
Cool. And if you didn't catch the stream where we, built on the previous day Apple Watch design and added voice to it, if you are in an American region, there's a bunch of different voices now, male voices, female voices, different tones. I believe there's some that sound a little bit younger than other ones, so you can do that. And some of the other localizations, depending on what your computer is set to, have just a few voices. Some of them have just one still, but those are definitely being worked on. So that was pretty cool. I thought that was neat. Next we have, Tassoon again. You're just on my radar all the time, aren't you? This was the pull to refresh animation. And I believe he might have used Design Camera, which is an app I've been hooked on. I think it's actually down here on my dock at the bottom. And it's a really cool way. If you're on the Mac, definitely check out. It's not an Adobe product, but I've been using it lately. It's really cool. So let me play that one more time because I was talking through it. I thought that was neat. And if you have checked out Design Camera, we may be in talks with the developer. It's just a single guy. I don't know if he's single or not, but it's just one guy that is just building this himself, I believe. And you know, we've been kind of going back and forth to see how we can integrate with XD or bring it over as a plugin or something. So who knows? We'll see. Just one guy. If it is just him, then he probably has other things to work on, but we're working on it. We're trying. So that was cool. And Anzi is saying that Germany has different voices too. Nice. All right, Agnes, one of our other regulars. This one is really cool. She tweeted this to me not too long ago. But she was able to kind of simulate what it would look like in a real world environment. And when she adjusts and slides the slider to brighten or dim the lights, it actually changes in her bedroom, which I thought was a really neat way of doing things. So Eric is asking about paid versus free plugins. I mean, ideally, plugins, free plugins are great, but you have to also remember that some of these developers, work for companies that make plugins for a living, or some of them are just, freelancers. So some, depending on the value of the plugin and how in-depth it is, sometimes paying is either necessary or, welcome, right? So it depends on the plugin. If it's a very basic plugin, then it might be free, but something like Angle, for example, that's a super in-depth plugin with, I think there's like 500 different screens and mockups you can use. So that you would have, you expect to pay for something like that because it's very high quality stuff. So great job, Agnes. I thought that was really cool. There's Agnes. Hey, nice job. Jaron, I believe he's here somewhere too. He's been creating some really great stuff over the last few weeks. And this one was challenge number 1, pull to refresh as well. And let me play this animation. And I thought that little, not only is that loading circle really cool, but the very subtle like curve at the top when he pulls down, which was nice. Bloop. Awesome. And then he had some like animated masks as those images get a little bit bigger. New images come in and it refreshes the feed. I thought that was really nice. Great job, Jaron. Next, Daniel. Daniel's another one who has been creating some crazy bonkers stuff. And I actually shared this with the XD team and they were just blown away by this. This was this day 2, I believe, possibly day 2. And I showed this off already, but I want to see it again because this is bonkers. Just watch this. That was so cool. And that's just, a few different artboards in Adobe XD. He sent me the file to take a look at, and it's not as complex as you might think. It's just a few different artboards and some great design. And most of the elements that you see in this design were created in XD. Maybe some of them were brought in from Illustrator or whatever, but all the layers were there of like the field and the players and all the text and stuff like that. Crazy. Great job. Heather, also creating some great stuff. One thing that really stuck out to me from this one is the way she laid everything out, and really, this Behance project looks fantastic. So this is a payback app for sending money easily on your Apple Watch. And I love these different screens, how they look at the top. And you can see a very subtle Apple Watch in the background here, which is a nice little touch. And then there's user flow, which is always nice. A real world preview of what it looks like, and then an embedded YouTube video. And if you are working on Behance projects and you're trying to either get work or just show off what you've done already, something like this is exactly the way you should, I can obviously give feedback for hours on Behance projects, but showing your progress, showing different screens, user flows, you can even add in colors and character styles that you've used, obviously interactive mockups and things like that. That stuff really resonates well with people who are landing on your project. So I thought that was great. I don't know if Heather's here, but she's definitely frequents our chat quite often. So great job, Heather. Next we have Rogier. Probably mispronounced that, but another Apple Watch app called Speed Pay. And user flow, another really nice layout on Behance. And there's a little bit of, loading screen here. Welcome. Oh, is there voice? There might be. Maybe not. I thought there was voice with this one, but there might not be. I can't hear anything. But I think there was voice. But down here, there's a bunch of different screens that he shows off, and I thought it was a pretty neat design. And if I do remember correctly, the voice was really nice, but it ain't working. Sorry, but good job. Next is from Begrox. It's a cool name, Begrox Studio. And this was for Challenge Day 3 for the Smart Home app. And we have a little animation. And I believe he used drag effect to kind of, spin that circle around. Yep. And you notice in the background, the light actually changes to show you what it would look like as that circle is being dragged around. Maria's asking, will we review Day 8 designs as well? I didn't take a look at those this morning, but maybe next week. I'm going to have a stream on Facebook, and I might be streaming somewhere else. Maybe I'll take a look at some of those. So good job, and there's some screens down here showing off, really nice looking design. I love that little circle, the color wheel in the middle, different moods, which is, I think, a nice little interesting touch. And just overall, it's a really nice, clean layout. And then finally, we have Anne, who is also sometimes in our chat. This is for, which app was this for again? I don't remember, but let's watch it and see what happens. This might not even been for a challenge, but it was sent over to me and I thought it was kind of neat. And there's some more screens down here. Nice use of voice as well. And also nice layout, which goes on forever. So many different interactions. Well, there you have it. So, we're gonna wrap things up. This has been an awesome 2 weeks of amazing designs. And if you want to take a look at some of the designs that have come in, go to Behance, search XD Daily Challenge, and sort it by most recent. And you're just going to be scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. There's a lot of entries that have come in. And you'll definitely be able to tell why it was so difficult to pick, 10 of them to showcase. There were a lot of good ones. But we are coming back in February 18th. We will be back with the Daily Creative Challenge. Again, we're gonna try something a little bit different. It's gonna be fun, I think. And I think you're gonna all have a good time. But in the meantime, Slack is gonna be open. Twitter's gonna be open. If you have feedback, definitely tweet it at me. I'm at Pinsky on Twitter. We're gonna be taking a lot of feedback and applying it not just to February's Daily Creative Challenge, but all of them going forward. And a big thank you to everyone who's drunk. No one's drunk. Big thank you to everyone who has joined me over the last 2 weeks, joined me today. Thanks to Paco, who's over here running things behind the scenes. Yeah. Gus Spot, who's usually over there. I don't know where he is, but he was in there. All of our moderators, everyone. It's been a great Daily Creative Challenge. And I'm so looking forward to the next one. And in the meantime, I'll see you all on Slack. And stay tuned at noon today. Talon, great designer on the XD team, is gonna be back in this very chair. Who knows what he's gonna be doing, but it's always great. And you can always ask him questions. He might be able to give you some sneaks, possibly. He is authorized to do some of that stuff. I'm not, you know. But with that said, I'll see you all very soon. Bye.